Yesterday, Prime Minister Modi made an unusual appeal to Indians. Not about elections, not about politics, but it was about lifestyle. The appeal he made was bring back work from home and online meetings to reduce unnecessary travel, reduce fuel consumption through public transport, EVs, and carpooling, avoid unnecessary foreign travel, and choose domestic tourism instead, postpone gold purchases for 1 year to conserve foreign exchange reserves, adopt Swadeshi and support locally manufactured products, reduce excessive fertilizer usage and move toward natural sustainable agriculture, and reduce edible oil consumption and avoid wasteful lifestyle habits. And above all, think national interest before personal convenience. Many people may say this as only a temporary response to rising global tensions or increasing fuel prices. But the bigger question is this: is India now preparing to become a more self reliant and economically resilient nation during uncertain global times? Because this is not only about petrol, traffic, or work from home. This is about preparing India to become more self reliant, less dependent on imports, and more economically resilient during uncertain global times. If you look at history, it shows us something very important. Whenever the world enters a phase of uncertainty, strong nations begin to rethink citizen behavior. And perhaps India is entering that phase now. Look at what global history shows, how it has changed the consumer behavior. During major wars, countries introduced rationing. During oil crisis, nations like Japan transformed themselves into fuel efficient economies. The oil crisis forced Japanese industrial structure and mindset to establish a culture of energy conservation that remains a key component of its economic strategy today. During COVID, as we know, remote work suddenly became mainstream worldwide. China spent roughly 4 decades building domestic manufacturing strength instead of depending excessively on imports, making it the world's leading manufacturing superpower. Singapore and Dubai built disciplined, efficiency driven systems where citizen behavior aligned with national strategic priorities. There are more countries like Thailand, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Egypt, and several European nations. They adopted measures like work from home, reduced travel, and energy conservation during fuel and economic crisis. We know those examples. So, the common pattern is mature nations understand one thing very clearly: economic resilience is not created only inside government offices. It is also created through collective social behavior. Now, why this matters for India? Today, India faces a very different global environment. Energy prices are volatile, supply chains are uncertain, geopolitical tensions are rising, import dependence can become a strategic weakness overnight. This is the situation. Let us look at the reality now. The fuel reality. India imports nearly 88% of its crude oil requirements, and India's annual crude oil import bill is roughly between 130 to 140 billion dollars. That means every unnecessary liter consumed has a larger economic implication for the country. Look at the edible oil dependency. India still imports more than 55 to 60% of its edible oil, and the annual edible oil import bill has reached nearly 19 billion US dollars, which means even our daily kitchen consumption directly impacts foreign exchange outflows. Look at the fertilizer challenge. India consumes around 600 lakh metric tons of fertilizers annually. Even after improvements in domestic production, nearly 25 to 30% dependency still comes through imports. India's fertilizer import bill was around 17-18 billion dollars in 2025, which spikes during global crisis, taking it significantly higher many times. Coming to gold, the gold angle nobody is discussing properly. And this is where the Prime Minister's appeal becomes strategically interesting. India imports nearly 90% of its gold demand from international markets, and India's gold import bill has now crossed $70 billion annually. The request to reduce gold purchases for a year may sound cultural or emotional on the surface because we Indians culturally love buying gold. But from a business compass perspective, how we see this as this is actually an economic intervention against what economists call dead assets. When Indians buy gold, billions of dollars leave the banking system to pay international markets for an asset that largely remains locked inside vaults and lockers instead of circulating productively in the economy. A 1 year behavioral pause can potentially retain enormous liquidity within domestic financial systems during a volatile global cycle that we are seeing today. When you look at it from this angle, suddenly the Prime Minister's appeal starts sounding less emotional and far more strategic. This is about preparing a nation psychologically for a more competitive and uncertain global era. What we may actually be witnessing is the rise of something called civic economics, a phrase where citizen behavior itself becomes a strategic economic instrument, where daily lifestyle decisions like what we consume, how much we travel, what we import, what we waste, begin influencing national economic resilience. The government is effectively asking us to temporarily behave less like consumers and more like economic stakeholders. And perhaps this is the larger national question India now faces. Can India evolve from a convenience first society into a responsibility first civilization? Because great nations are not built only through government schemes or GDP numbers. They are built when citizens begin aligning personal behavior with larger national priorities. Sometimes progress is not only about consuming more. Sometimes progress is about consuming intelligently. So, strategically, the entire appeal can largely be seen in these three macro objectives. One, reduce India's import dependency, especially in categories where India spends massive foreign exchange, such as crude oil, gold, edible oil, fertilizers, certain luxury imports. It means reduce India's dependence on other countries during global crisis, geopolitical risks, and dollar outflows. Two, reduce consumption intensity, not merely imports, but the actual consumption itself. For example, less unnecessary fuel usage, less excessive edible oil consumption, reduced chemical fertilizer usage, fewer avoidable luxury purchases, lower wasteful travel. What it means is build a more resource efficient and resilient economy. This is why the messaging is not only buy Indian, it is also consume responsibly. 3. Redirect spending within India. If consumption must continue, then keep the economic multiplier inside India. Examples? There are many. Domestic tourism instead of foreign vacations, Swadeshi products instead of imported alternatives, local ecosystems over external dependence, Indian services, Indian manufacturing, Indian supply chains. What it means is retain capital circulation within the domestic economy. So in one line, the philosophy becomes consume less where India is externally dependent and where consumption continues, ensure the economic value stays within India. We feel that is essentially the economic architecture behind the appeal made by Prime Minister Modi. And perhaps that is a deeper message behind the appeal. The era of cheap, unlimited, globalized consumption may be slowing down. The focus now is shifting from expansion to protection, from convenience to resilience. And perhaps that is the real signal India is sending to the world. Now, I would like to hear from you. When nations face global uncertainty, energy security and economic resilience become national priorities. In view of this, how are you going to respond to the appeal made by Prime Minister Modi? Will you give more preference to work from home and online meetings? Will you reduce unnecessary travel? Consider using public transport, EVs or carpooling more often? Prefer traveling within India instead of foreign vacations for some time? Will you support more Swadeshi and locally made products? Postpone gold purchases for a while, a year? Will you use edible oil and other resources more responsibly? What are the changes you wish to bring into your daily life that could benefit not only you, but also the country? Do share your thoughts in the comments. Hope you liked this video. Please do share this video with your network. This is Business Compass channel. We bring such insights to you from time to time. So I request you to subscribe to Business Compass channel and stay tuned. Thank you so much and have a great day.